FiLiA means daughter. We are the daughters of the women who came before us, and we fight so that our daughters may be free. We are a women-led volunteer organization. Our vision is a world free from patriarchy, where all women and girls are liberated. We seek to contribute to the women's liberation movement by building sisterhood and solidarity among women, locally, nationally, and globally. By amplifying the voices of women, particularly those less often heard or purposefully silenced, and by defending women's human rights.
Hello, dear visitors. Thank you for coming to the second part of the FiLiA webinar, Sex Trade Survivors Demanding the Global Change. I am LUBA FEIN from FiLiA. 13 exited survivors from 12 different countries are participating in this webinar. I will introduce our next speaker. This is Merle Åsbogård from Sweden. 2 years ago, I met her in Bradford at the annual FiLiA conference. We both spoke at the same abolitionist panel. I was shocked to learn that this brilliant, beautiful woman has spent 16 years in prostitution. Eventually, she exited and turned into an activist. Today, Merle is a political scientist, activist for the Nordic model, and a board member of a local Me Too initiative. Merle Åsbogård's autobiography will be published soon. I really hope it will be available in English. I can see how it becomes one of my absolutely favorite books. Please, Merle, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy, and I just want to say yes, yes, yes. I'm listening to all your panelists, and I'm on fire right now. It's been hard times for me, as you know, but I felt I grew as a person just listening to all these wonderful women. I would like to read a speech that I've written, but not memorized. So I'm going to read from a paper. I'm going to talk initially about a question that I'm being continuously asked by reporters and also students from different levels. Which was worse, racism or sexism? The question is again asked as many times before. The question is important, that is the answer that is difficult. What on my body trumps the oppression over another part of the body? Is it the melanin in my skin or the fact that I was once a girl and later a woman? Two destructive structures that both reap lives and dreams. Sorry. That both reap lives and dreams. My answer, based on my extensive experience, have the potential to have actual consequences in the view of vulnerability. The weight of the question does not do itself justice in relationship to the rather simple design, which was worse, racism or sexism. I came into child prostitution because I was a girl. I was brutalized because I was Black, could be the answer, even if it does not give a clear idea of the truth, as the truth itself runs deeper than that. To be Black, to be a woman, is to be in constant struggle for the right to one's body, one's right to autonomy, sexuality, individuality, and self-determination. The right to a place in the public space and the right to gain access to the place in the public without having to give up the right to any of the above. What makes me a woman does not make me Black, and what makes me Black does not make me a woman. But when they meet, we see a historical oppression that lives well in our days. An expression that got its own name, coined by a Black woman named Moya Bailey, Mr. Yunar. It is a summary word to describe the hatred, prejudice, mistrust, disapproval, violence, discrimination, silence, and culture of silence that afflict Black girls and women. Something I myself had to realize when during my almost 40 years in earthly life, I've come in contact with or met only one single other Black woman in Sweden who's reported a sexual assault. Victims' actions, meaning reporting the rapes to the police, damage to fight against racism, they were told, within our own community. A study done at Georgetown University established what I think most Black people already are well aware of. Black girls are seen as less innocent, sexualized, and adulticide, seen as adults with an adult's responsibility, more so than white girls. Black girls' attitude, which can be read and understood as emotional reactions, was also more often interpreted as cheeky and aggressive, and at an earlier age. In an article from the Washington Post, Jonita Davis testifies about how Black girls are sexualized from the moment they learn to walk and talk. Her own daughter received comments that linked to sex already as a toddler, how her daughter was considered curvy, how inappropriate it would be to have her in something other than a one-piece swimsuit. The study establishes that adultification is a kind of dehumanization, and that Black girls being adulticide are seen as adults with an adult's responsibility, lose an essential part of their childhood and are robbed of their innocence. I would also argue that that is the same case for girls, regardless of race, who are being sexually exploited, raped, and sold. I myself was a child when my virginity was taken, when I was raped and when I was sold. I have seen with my own eyes through the Swedish legal system how guilt and responsibility have been tried to be shared between victims and perpetrators, as if we were two equal parties who share the same goals, power, and opportunities. In Borås District Court in 2001, with my two male perpetrators in front of me, I heard everything from how I was significantly more mature than most other girls, and how I played as a big role as these men in the thing, big as a role as these men in the things that happened. That these men had committed a crime was mostly formal. The responsibility was just as much mine. If anything was to be said, well, it was that I could have been seen as the thriving force behind what happened. What happened then? Well, one of the men had taken me over from my old pimp, and both men for 6 months bought my body, tried to persuade me to get one of my friends to join a network, which I didn't. I was sold to different men, tied up and raped, marinated in alcohol, and together they caused injuries, both physically and mentally, through hour-long abuse sessions. I was 15 and they were 45. I'm not a victim because I'm Black. I'm not a victim because I'm a woman. Destructive structures and the majority of violent men make me a victim for that very reason. Sexism and racism are branches of the same tree. In a broader and many times better perspective, one should look up from individual sex bias and see the violence that sexism and racism give rise to as part of the society that must be worked with tirelessly, because they fuel each other and at the same time legitimize each other's actions. In summary, the answer can best be answered by acknowledging you are asking the wrong person. Ask the perpetrators the question, why are you abusing, raping, and beating her, buying her? Was it because she's Black or because she's female? Sweden has had the law, or the sex buyers law that we call it in Sweden. The Nordic model is called internationally, sometimes even called the equality model, since 1999. We also have had wonderful words written about this law, special reports being shown out to the public and to the international area. But the thing is, when we speak about the problem globally, we have to include that every law, whether or not we're talking about Canada or Sweden, needs to be implemented, as Valerie so eloquently said, in all levels. And the thing that we have been working hard with, especially the last 5 years, when I have to say we rid ourselves from the liberal sex positive agenda, claiming that work is work, sex work is work, which was also very much highlighted in the reports that were made. They were made a significant difference between a woman who did it freely, which does not exist, can add, and a woman who was trafficked. We've been able to speak during the last, well, let's say 5 years, especially since Me Too, more openly about how prostitution in Sweden afflicts women and girls. and how we are kept in poverty, and how we are kept being a marginalized group who has no voice, who's often spoken for by sex liberal, lecturers, professors doing studies where we're nothing but tools who in the end will see our voices being run over by anonymous voices saying that they love being in sex work. We are working to end that and to be more visible, and to see that the law was written on two legs. One was the judicial system, which works better, especially when it has the funds to do so, and also the care of the people who and the prevention of the demand. When I speak to you now about the global aspects of my work, I usually do lectures. I try to go abroad as much as I can, because I love listening to all other survivors and all other people who works with these questions. But we need to manifest a broad, global, almost a new female UN to deal with this, because it's a global issue that we are trying to work out locally or nationally, and it's not going to work like that. So my hopes and my dreams is that FiLiA blows up to be this global UN, or if we have another organization, but I love FiLiA, so I'd love it to be you guys, and where we can support and lobbying against the sex positive sex work regime who are taking over. We have to expose their lies. We have the voices, we have the data. I can't see how they can conquer with anything other than, and this is what sucks living in a patriarchy, the holes in the system that they build for themselves. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing governments who say that they see that women are being, brutalized, beaten, raped, and killed, but they still want to maintain that hole so they can stick their dick in it. I'm sorry for being rude, but to stick their dick in it and buy another person without consent. A person that would much rather be studying or working or being in need of treatment because of their own entitled wills, and they do because they can. I'm so in full support of a global campaign. I'm in a global fundraising where we can start put pressure on these states locally, regionally, globally, because this is not a question about that should separate us at all, being left wing or right wing. I am very much left, but this is a question of right and wrong, period. So I'm really thankful to be able to speak here today. I'm looking forward to listening to all the other great speakers as well. And I want to thank you for inviting me. And also, when it comes to the book, I will release it next year. I'm not going to sit there and toot my own horn, but it's an opportunity. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Merle. You are so right that prostitution lies in the intersection of sexism, racism, and classism. This is your analysis is so brilliant, and thank you so much for your brilliant contribution.